Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Remains of America after Election Day 2020. It's a fraught time, but I'm feeling pretty good, and excited for what looks like it's almost certainly going to be a big news Wednesday with Jayar Jackson. Jayar, how's it going?
Well, it'll be a speculative big news Wednesday, but still big news nonetheless. I'm here for it. I'm down. A little bit tired.
Canceling. That's true. I can't even imagine you, because I went home before you did. I only got 5 hours of sleep. Did you sleep last night?
4 hours, I think.
Oh, okay, that's probably not enough. Something is gonna get me through. I don't know what, but something is gonna get me through. I might be a little bit twitchy today. But you know what? I am comfortable. You know why I'm comfortable? Because I'm wearing the newest shirt available at Shop TYT. I might be wearing it surely, but I am wearing the grabbed him by the ballot shirt, which I would only wear if I thought that there was a good chance that Trump was gonna lose in the election. That is how I'm feeling today. So right now at Shop TYT, there are 2 election themed shirts that are now up. The grabbed him by the ballot available in multiple colors, as well as the you're fired shirt. Soon we'll all be able to tweet it. We can wear it now, soon we'll tweet you're fired. But anyway, thank you to everybody who's already here, whether on YouTube or on Twitch. Please like the stream, share the stream, hit the heart, whatever it is that they want you to do these days. Maybe we're live on Instagram. I don't know. I know that we have an Instagram at instagram.com/thedamagereport. If you're there, do whatever Instagrammers do. But anyway, we're gonna be talking about a lot of news. We're gonna catch up a little bit on last night. We're going to touch base with how things are looking this morning, and spoiler alert, they're looking pretty good. And there's a little bit of other news besides. So with that, Jayar, you ready to jump into this thing?
I think we should.
A lot to get to. Oh, and feel free to send us comments, tweets, Twitchies, all of that. We'll be responding as we go. But with that, let's do this thing. Last night, with the election very much not decided, Donald Trump did something that no one could have predicted. Indeed, no one did predict. He tried to cast doubt on the outcome. Take a look.
We won states, and all of a sudden, I said, what happened to the election? It's off. And we have all these announcers saying, what happened? And then they said, oh, because you know what happened? They knew they couldn't win. So they said, let's go to court. And did I predict this, Newt? Did I say this? I've been saying this from the day I heard they were gonna send out tens of millions of ballots. I said exactly, because either they were gonna win, or if they didn't win, they'll take us to court.
They said, ooh, so look, that's obviously, Jayar is like physically in pain. I can see from his monitor. So look, that's very predicted. We'll get into all of that really fast though. Is that the clearest example of projection you've ever seen in your own life? He said, we can't win, so we'll go to court. That's what they're doing. What are you talking about, dude? We're not saying we need to go to any court. We're just saying count the votes. There's no court cases. He is literally the only one talking about going to court. Indeed, in a couple of minutes, we're gonna show you the continuation of that video where he says he's going to the court. That is projection so clear, you could watch a movie on the side of your garage with it.
The advisors that came up with this scheme, because they knew this is the only thing they had left to pull, were sitting backstage wherever they were watching and went, Donnie, you messed it up. You're not supposed to say they're taking us to court. You're supposed to say that we're gonna take them to court because they're cheating. Simple, stupid. I guarantee that they're sitting back going, no, it's a simple 1-2 sentences, Donnie. Just 2 sentences, get them right.
Couldn't do it.
He couldn't get it straight. He couldn't get it straight.
Yeah, and that wasn't it. That was weird with the, ooh, I don't get it. And you probably already heard, like, I'm congested and dealing with it right now, but that dude is sniffing like a madman. So we're gonna show you another video, and I want you to check how sniffy he gets as he's doing the very serious work of trying to replace American democracy with something else.
So we won there, we lead by 76,000 votes with almost nothing left. And all of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the US Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it. So I just want to thank you.
Okay, I'm just judging by the sniffing, but I have a feeling that his lungs at this point are basically plastic bags filled with cottage cheese. But anyway, pushing past his lung trubs that he's gonna deal with for the rest of his life because he doesn't care about COVID and didn't do anything to stop himself or others from getting it. So Jayar there, he says it's a disgrace that votes are being counted. Everyone in the room's cheering, and they wanna go in with the courts and stop those votes from being counted, like we said he would.
Yeah, exactly. And as he denied he would do. We knew this was going to come down the pipe. And then, because again, it's his only play. I said this last night. There are campaigns, especially for president, spend a lot of money on pollsters, internal pollsters, not just the ones that we see in news reports and all the time. So they have internal pollsters that are polling, and they knew the situation, they knew the possibilities. They were hoping for something different, of course, but they pay a lot of money so they can have this much expertise so they can plan which play to make on election night. This is the last play that's left. And we always knew it. So other people also knew what pollsters were thinking and saying. So it was an obvious, easy prediction. All Donald Trump can do now, as he's been planting these seeds of distrust for months in our election system, we already knew what he was gonna do. And it's been talked about what he's gonna do. Declare on election night, when there's this lead, potentially this lead because of in-person votes. They're gonna cheat us, and we have to fight back for this. And then, of course, because that's the only thing he's got, he has to deny it beforehand because that wouldn't be very cool to spring it on everybody. So he has to spring it on everyone anyway. This playbook is tied. Now, number two, from growing up in a black church to being an athlete for most of my life, and then just people that like to clown and talk trash in hallways in high schools, that crowd is basically like it's a hype man. So, in black churches, when the preacher says something that hits a point, everybody goes, oh yeah, woo, praise Jesus. And it amplifies the point, makes it sound better, no matter what he said. Half people may not even heard what he said, just go, oh yeah, man, that crowd is hype. You hear those 7 people going, yeah, woo. Or if there's a bully in the hallway, it says, hey, I'm gonna beat you up at 2 o'clock. And his boys go, ooh. It makes it sound so much better. That's all that crowd was there to do, to make the nonsense sound like it was legitimate or better or actually something that resembles the truth. None of that existed.
There was a guy with a salmon-colored suit on there. And so look, this is what we're up against, by the way, because Donald Trump knows that these are legit votes that are just being counted. Everyone in that room knows that these are legitimate votes cast by American citizens that have every right to be counted. And everyone in that room agrees, no, don't count their votes. We want power. F American democracy. So as we go forward, things are looking good and we'll give you updates on that. But understand that the other side knows full well what they're doing. Some of their, the randos on Twitter or whatever, they have been successfully duped into thinking that those votes are illegitimate. Donald Trump is under no illusions that the votes aren't legitimate. He's just lying to you. It's as simple as that. And he's lying in exactly the ways we said that he would. So I want to fast forward to this morning. So to the director, you can skip the first of those graphics. I'm going to go to his second one, starting with last night. But we went to sleep knowing that the outcome is likely to change as more votes are counted, especially in states like Pennsylvania, where we've been saying this is how things would happen. No one should be surprised, but one person has to pretend to be surprised. And that person is Donald Trump, who woke up tweeting, last night I was leading, often solidly, in many key states, in almost all instances, Democrat run and controlled. Then one by one, they started to magically disappear as surprise ballot dumps were counted. Very strange. And the pollsters got it completely and historically wrong. So I don't know if those two parts of that tweet are supposed to be connected about the pollsters getting it wrong. That's a separate conversation that we can have. But understand that he is now pitching the continued count of ballots that have been in hand for days or weeks as mysterious ballot dumps appearing. There's no mysterious ballot dumps. That's not a thing. He's got dumps on the mind, I guess, but they're not dumps. They've had these votes. They're just more votes that they're counted. That's it.
Yeah, these are a bit of this strategy process, this process, and the strategy that I think his advisors and himself put together. Don't work in this year. Don't work in this age of information. Don't work in this age of when people will spread that information before you get a chance to do it. If people aren't able to see and pay attention to everything that you do the way we used to be with elections and with presidents and the White House, you don't have as much access to what's going on. You could pull something like this and people go, oh my God, look at that. He said there's a dump. Everyone knows that there's no dumps of ballots because we were able to pay attention before you come up with the lie that's already been disproven beforehand. It's just, I don't know how many more plays you have left. You're fighting against reality that everyone gets to see.
Yeah. You got to give him some credit for staying on message for once. There was at least a 50% chance under normal circumstances that him talking about mysterious dumps would lead to him talking about how toilets don't flow enough water anymore. But no, he's on the election thing. He continued tweeting, how come every time they count mail-in ballot dumps, they are so devastating in their percentage and power of destruction? Okay, dude, we're not talking about like white phosphorus weapons. We're not talking about the atom bomb. We're talking about ballots that someone's grandma sent. That's it. They're not devastating in the power of their destruction. You got outvoted in the mail-in ballots. And you have exactly one person to blame, yourself. None of this needed to be this way. There's no reason that the mail-in ballots should be going more for Democrats than for Republicans. And in regular elections, they don't. This is the product of a campaign for months to convince Republicans not to send in their ballots via the mail. This is what he wanted, this is what he's getting, and now he's talking about devastation and destruction and all of that.
Yeah, I want you to think about the amount of work, as you point out, the months of work to sow distrust in the election system, specifically the mail-in voting system. And after doing all that, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of planning, it's a lot of money towards it. There was ads, there was press conferences, there's energy putting forward. All of this went into, that's work. Imagine he's put this much work into actually taking care of what he's supposed to do. In fact, and actually looking into the intelligence and the scientists and the details of what's going on with COVID, and actually maybe doing something about it, or maybe actually addressing the relief problems that people are having, a problem getting a bill passed to take care of American people, small business, all the stuff that you say you want to do. Where's the work to do that? Yeah. Instead, they put in work to deceive you, to make people think this isn't really an election that you can trust. You might actually have won some votes if you do something for the American people. The energy goes to negativity rather than actual work for the American people. That's how he's looking to an election. Yeah. You can win an election if you do positive things. Take that same energy and put it to something decent. But he doesn't have that capacity.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, we've been talking like for 7 hours yesterday. We talked about Biden as a candidate and the Dem strategy and all the problems with that, and we're going to continue to be talking about that and the fallout from that going forward. But let's also bear in mind that if Donald Trump had done any work whatsoever, he would have won this thing easily. Like it could be about the pandemic, it could be about virtually anything. If he even appeared to give a damn, he could have easily won re-election. But he didn't do it because he is a mediocre, lazy person who has gotten through their life being handed things. That's it basically, and it's a good gig if you can get it. But sometimes during moments of crisis, you are expected to do the bare minimum, and he found a way to not do that. And now he's left in this position where he needs to get the courts to side with him, and he needs to get enough people to be confused about the outcome. He needs them basically to be as confused as he is when he sends tweets like this. What is this all about? Now, you can't see what else is in that tweet because it contains misinformation about the election, as so many of his do. But it's something about supposedly they found 100,000 votes in Pennsylvania and every single one was for him. That's not true. That's not actually what happened, but he's tweeting about it. And then finally, I'm only gonna give you one more. This is fairly recently. He said, they are finding Biden votes all over the place in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So bad for our country. Well, it's bad for somebody. It's bad for somebody. It's the dude doing the tweeting. And you know why they're finding those votes? Because those votes were cast. The people wanted Biden, they cast votes. We've been saying it's gonna take a couple days to count those votes, and indeed that's playing out. He's shocked. He wouldn't have been shocked if he'd been watching the damage report.
Trump was like, bad news, team, bad news. Democracy keeps popping up all over the country. We're supposed to quell this. We're supposed to stop it. What's with these votes? What are those? To say it that directly and straightforward, you're supposed to hide it a little bit, aren't you? Aren't you supposed to say something like what Mike Pence said last night? We believe in our election system. We always want to count every vote.
He did. Yeah, he had to pretend, exactly. And I'll give him minimal credit for that. There are some people that are getting credit that don't deserve it. Marco Rubio had some tweet about it's not over until the votes are cast. Every legally cast ballot must be counted, and people are like, Marco Rubio, yeah. And I'm like, do you not see what he's doing? He's just playing games with legally cast. That's the exact same thing that Donald Trump is saying. He's just gonna define legally in a way that doesn't have anything to do with the law. Marco Rubio deserves credit. Screw him. Screw him until the end of days.
These aren't supporters that are buying into that BS that Marco Rubio said. I thought you meant like they're buying into it. You mean people who know the reality?
I've seen
Marco
tweets.
Rubio is saying the right thing when he's not.
Yes, there are people who are like, good. We need responsible establishment Republicans to stand against Donald Trump. That's not what Marco Rubio is doing. Marco Rubio is seated like a tiny little monkey on Trump's shoulder, agreeing with him while appearing not to. That's all it is. Anyway, yeah, and we're gonna have more about the sort of response to Donald Trump's argument and all of that. But you know what? I think that it's important that we get into. Oh, good. I have already laid it out that way. Okay, so we're gonna continue in a moment. Before we do that, though, let's see what's going on with the audience. I know this is a high tension time, so let's read a few messages from the audience. So, first super chat today was from Mandy M, who said, "I'm super sad we didn't get the landslide. At least there doesn't seem to be a big threat of violence yet, especially in the hick town I live in." Yes, glad to see that we got through election day, not without any problems. There were problems, but there was no act of domestic terrorism or anything like that that I was personally fearing. So I was wrong about that, thank God. Nobody wants me to be wrong more than me. Andrew says, "Good morning, John. Thanks for your coverage of the election. There is hope for a Trump loss." I think there's more than hope at this point, but Colton says, "Hey, John, can you dumb down and explain the Electoral College and your thoughts on abolishing it? Also, my first super chat, and love Jayar." Thank you, Colton.
Love you guys back.
Not really. No, it would take too much time. But basically, we don't directly tally our votes and then decide the president based off of that. Inside of each state, we have for the most part. In some, we don't. In most states, we have a popular vote contest that then determines how many electoral college votes, which is a product of population and the number of senators and all of that then go. But all of that is in theory. That's what's supposed to determine who those electoral college votes go for. We don't know for sure that it actually will. And if this thing is super close, that could be very relevant. So I can't go super in depth right now, but we will return to that more as we go on. Tom Twiddell says, "Win or lose, I'm extremely disappointed with this country. It should not have been this close. Smash that like button, people." Thank you, Tom. Tom, by the way, really nice guy. Randomly gave me beta access to the upcoming Call of Duty. Just a very nice thing to do. In this time, that's what I need. Thank you, Tom. Anyway, you know what, by the way, while we're on that topic of people being really nice, let's talk about a couple of additional nice people. So I wanna talk about two, first of all. Okay, so let's see, where is it? Okay, so we have Annie who sent us in a number of awesome Dragon Squad themed lighters. So I have one right here. Cool dragon design on it. Sent in a bunch of these, so the different members of the team. You can see Jayar. Can we cut to Jayar? He's got his Dragon Squad lighter there. Thank you, Annie. That's awesome.
Can I show you guys the packaging? Do you have the packaging too? Because this is awesome. So also
nice.
Individually wrapped Dragon Squad, gold painting, awesome. And then also it has the logo that came in on the back. So
it's like the Lannisters meet the Targaryens. Yeah, and love it. Very nice. Like every member of the team gets one of these. But then in addition, sent in like this. This is the coolest lighter I've ever seen. I don't know if you're really gonna be able to see it, but the dragon head. And look, I was very concerned the first time I activated this that it didn't explode in my hand or shoot a bullet or something, but it turned out it's not. It's a totally normal, nice person. Thank you so much, Annie. This is awesome. I'm gonna have to start smoking now. Thank you. But then in addition, this is all on the same day, by the way. Annie, thank you so much. Then Timothy from Hilltop Ironworks sent in this is a legit modern day blacksmith, made a couple of awesome dragon bottle openers. Take a look at this.
It's crazy.
This is made entirely out of metal. However heavy you think this is, it's heavier. This is like a legit, awesome forged dragon bottle opener. That is so cool. And sent in 2. I'm gonna try to get 1 to be used on a happy half hour. But in addition to the awesome work, which is so cool because by the way, I've recently restarted watching American Chopper and I fantasize about being able to do some metal work. I think that's so cool. And then I get this and I'm like, I bet he could do it. But then in addition, he reminded me, we've talked about the origin of Dragon Squad and all of that and how the conversation began, but I didn't remember who asked the question that I responded to and made that up. It was Timothy, apparently. He tells me in the message that he asked the question that generated Dragon Squad, and now he's making awesome metal stuff for Dragon Squad. So thank you so much,
it was all a plan
everybody.
From Timothy from the beginning. This is a coordinated plan. Be careful, John.
Exactly.
Be careful.
Exactly.
You can have a dragon car coming in the mail or something, get delivered.
That's so cool. I think you could make. I think you'd probably. It would have to be a Toyota Supra, but I think you could make a dragon out of it. Anyway, are the American Chopper guys watching? Dragon Chopper, come on. I fear that they would be Trump supporters, but anyway, but I love their work and I'm watching the show from the beginning again. Anyway, okay, so Speedy Dave, thank you for your super chat. Brian says sending some love on a Jayar Wednesday. Thank you for that.
A little bit of love, I love it.
Raul, thank you. Let's see, Eclectic Miscellaneous says, now that Jenk's an official member of the record-breaking Dragon Squad, how long until TYT Network is renamed TDR Network featuring the Young Turks? That's pretty good. Yeah, he shocked us all wearing a Dragon Squad shirt on the show yesterday. And in return, he was christened by Dragon Squad as the Justice Dragon. How cool is that? How cool is that? Benjamin Matthews says, good morning, John. And a big good morning to Jayar, the awesome Dragon Jackson, and the rest of the Dragon Squad.
Everyone's getting their names, man. We're gonna have to sift these out and see where they land. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. And then one more. There's a lot of other messages, and we will try to get to more as we go. But there's a lot of news to get to. Classy Andy says, "Hi John, just for a laugh, I saw no cursing behind you in your video earlier. Has anyone mentioned it before?" So here's the thing. So in the studio, on our linear programs, there's certain swears that we can't say. It's a TV thing or whatever, and that has proven in the beginning virtually impossible to get guests to abide by. So when you're sitting at our desks, no matter where you look in the studio, there is a sign that says no cursing, so that it's always in your mind. Normally, on my streams I can curse or whatever, but yeah, so that's why that's there.
Is there a ballot initiative? I mean, there was a bunch of things that went through the country yesterday. Some more marijuana legalization, drug legalization things. Is there some kind of ballot initiative that we can initiate across the country in multiple states to declare that several words that are curse words don't actually make your head explode, and if someone hears them, they won't die on the spot? I mean, other things are getting legalized. How about words? Can we start legalizing words here? That's all.
That makes sense to me. These words, and the words you can say, in my mind, in some cases are worse than the words that you can't say. It doesn't make any sense. By the way, one Twitch comment I want to read from Lean Marie says, Jayar is obviously the Dread Dragon. That's pretty cool. The Dread Pirate Dragon. Anyway, with that, let's jump back in the news. So much to get to. I know that across the country, there were a lot of people who last night were just feeling so much anxiety about the vote. Florida turned for Trump, and then Texas didn't flip, and it was looking really bad and all of that. I personally think we were letting our hopes of a landslide get ahead of ourselves. But whatever your assumptions were, I think that we all have to acknowledge that we have woken up to a map that is looking better and better for Joe Biden as the day goes on. Doesn't mean that Trump can't win, whether legitimately or not. And it doesn't mean that there weren't other losses that were devastating. I'm just seeing right now in the breaking news that Susan Collins got a very gracious call from Sarah Gideon, and that makes me sick to my goddamn stomach. But that said, the developments so far this morning have generally been good. Arizona is still looking like a lock for Joe Biden. We have Wisconsin. Apparently the vote is done in Wisconsin. Joe Biden is up by more than 20,000 votes. The Trump campaign is saying that they're going to do a recount, which so far what it looks like, they are perfectly able to do that. They will have to pay for it. I would say based on my experience with Trump, I would ask for that money in advance. But that said, they can have a recount if they want. And in addition, Maine has been called, or at least 3 out of the 4 electoral college votes in Maine have been called for Joe Biden. We have some other updates, but based off of that, so far, Jayar, how you feeling this morning?
Yeah, this is the thing. I was just telling my kid this because he's only 8, but in my mind, it's a 50-50. He's way too into it because I don't want him to be consumed with this negativity of our election process. But also, I love that he knows and is keeping track. But he's basically like, so what do you mean is going to happen? I said, what's happening is exactly the way people saw it happen. 100%. And the fact that it's going the way people thought it would go is actually okay, because that result was a close looking election, something happening on election day to make one thing look a certain way for Donald Trump. And then as the rest of the electorate votes gets counted, we see the reality of the situation. So not much to worry about. I mean, we're looking at Georgia still, and they're mentioning how certain counties and areas that would have normally gone a certain way are still getting counted. So again, as I said during I was in the 2:00 hour yesterday during the election coverage. I said, we're gonna be doing this the rest of the week, you guys. This is not election day, this is election week. And we're not gonna fully know till the end. Pennsylvania specifically, we're looking Friday, I think, for Pennsylvania.
So, yeah, it might take until Friday. And we knew every bit of this. And we all swore that we got the blue shift, that we would be patient and all that. But I think a lot of people had their fingers crossed behind their backs when they were saying that, possibly including myself. Because this is really playing out the way that we thought it was going to go. I didn't think that Michigan would be this close, but as of this morning, Biden is up in Michigan almost by a point now. There's only 6% more of the vote to come, and it seems like that vote that's still remaining to come is weighted towards Joe Biden, both in terms demographically, but also in terms of it being disproportionately the early mail-in ballot. Right now, we're seeing in Georgia, there's an estimated 200,000 votes still to be cast. That's about double Trump's current margin. So it's really going to depend to where those are weighted. If they're weighted pro-Biden, then maybe he wins Georgia. And if he wins with Michigan and if he wins Georgia, then that's all she wrote. I don't even think at that point Pennsylvania matters. But Pennsylvania is playing out exactly like we said it was going to. So let's just bear that in mind. Trump has still got a good lead, but sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's it's the fact that it's going out the way it was, and the polls didn't do this, and we're concerned or looking for a landslide. So all of the frustration and anxiety from last night from a lot of Democratic voters, it's just hard to watch it. That's all. So I get the anxiety, but it really is what was said was supposed to happen, and it's happening that way. And Trump's response is also exactly that. Now, one small thing about that, when Trump came out and was declaring victory last night, it was obvious it was trying to happen at a certain point before the switch happened for Wisconsin and Michigan, before Biden took those over. He needed at that moment to have it look a certain way, which is also why I think it was Jason Miller, one of his campaign advisors, was upset that Fox News called Arizona before they had a chance to say, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, we're leading all these, Georgia, North Carolina. So they couldn't throw Arizona on the pile, and that threw off their messaging. It's really all it was. It's a messaging thing. And now that it's flipped, it's exactly what we thought. It's ticking every one of the boxes that they said was gonna happen.
Yeah, and look, if you're anxious, I get it. I'm still a little bit anxious. I mean, I'm looking at Georgia, and what I'm seeing from Stephanie Saul is that there's about 200,000 votes remaining. They're coming mostly from supposedly, and I'm looking at the county level data, and it seems true, left-leaning areas of metropolitan Atlanta, which are likely to skew for Joe Biden. Is that enough to make up the gap with just 7%? I don't know. It's gonna be close either way. Maybe that will have a recount too, but we don't know for sure yet. Pennsylvania, we've still got 20% of the vote to count. We've got like 1 million plus ballots to count. A lot of it being those mail-in ballots. And in terms of those mail-in ballots, it might still go for Trump. That is entirely possible. But from what I saw, I believe that Biden is winning about 81% of the mail-in ballots. So that is going to likely skew heavily in favor of him. We don't know. It looks so far like Joe Biden is going to win. I am hoping that it is not close, that it's not a 270 thing. I don't want any sort of faithless elector or a state legislature deciding to take their 6 votes and give it to Trump, even though he didn't earn it. I want to avoid that sort of thing. But there's still a lot of votes to be counted. It would be great to know right now, but whatever, man. You're gonna know in a few days. By the time you're sitting down and watching the second episode of the second season of Mandalorian, you're gonna have a really good idea of who's gonna be president, and that's not that far off. Thank God, because I want to know what happens.
Yeah, and okay. As far as way it looks and how close it was and the frustration based off hoping for a landslide, we're never gonna get a landslide when it comes to racism versus normalcy. Or even a small sense of normalcy, because honestly, Joe Biden could do a lot better. But so I mean, all it is your declarations. I mean, W squeaked by in 2000, I think, or maybe it was reelection. Mandate was the headline. All bold capitals. Mandate, mandate, mandate. Just say mandate. Who cares? Say, you know, we won. Mandate.
Yeah.
That's all it is. A win is a win, right? The American people spoke. Mandate and popular vote. Mandate. Just go for it. Just say it. What are they gonna do? Fight back against it? And all you do is say it is another high school easy trick. Scoreboard. Anytime someone wants to say, because guess who does that? Republicans definitely do that, even when the scoreboard doesn't lean in their favor. All you have to do is point and say, scoreboard. Now shut up, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do these things my way.
Yeah. No, but that's literally the story of last night. That was Trump saying, "No, you got to get me out there now. I got to point to the scoreboard while it's still favoring me." And that strategy isn't even looking all that good at this point. Now, yeah, so we wake up to some bad results. The fact that Susan Collins is still going to be a senator is so frustrating. You know, Lindsey Graham having won last night, that sucks so much. I guess his begging for money on Fox News, I guess it worked. And Mitch McConnell is going to win. And so we may get the most important single thing we need, which is Donald Trump out of the White House. But we still have a country where you can just pledge fealty to Donald Trump and you will get rewarded for it. Doesn't matter what you do or don't do. You can leave people out in the cold to die in a pandemic, tens of thousands ever increasing, and you will be okay. We are a failed state. And I don't just mean that in the standard definition, I mean that in so many definitions. That will be true even with Joe Biden as president. But we can continue to push, and maybe next time with AOC or whoever, maybe it'll be different. But again, it probably still won't be a landslide. I agree with Jayar. You know, when it's effectively racism versus, hey, maybe we shouldn't run the US government solely to prop up, white supremacist system. I don't think you're gonna have that major of a landslide. But anyway, that's how it's looking right now. I know a lot of people woke up this morning and still were feeling pretty rough. I got a lot of messages from people saying like, how anxious are you and everything, both from viewers, but also like people I know in my life who are like, how do you feel? And I don't think that I'm being irrational when I look at the developments so far today and say that it's all moving in the right direction. The question will be, does it move enough? And I think the answer is yes, but we do have to wait and see. We have to wait and see if this was a bad decision to wear the shirt the day after the election.
Yeah, the battle now becomes how much we're going to push back against this plan. It's going to be an onslaught of disinformation and more cutting into the credibility of the election process. That's all the play that's left. And they started last night. You think they're going to stop? You think they're going to go, okay, it's Friday. We tried that game for 3 days. It's not going to work. Yeah. Okay, guys, bye. No.
Yeah.
We have a few months ahead of him consistently talking about this is a fraud.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, before we move on to other news, and we'll be watching. Like if something big breaks, Sophie, our producer's on the line. Feel free to let me know. Just wave your hands crazily or send me a message. We will be doing live response during shows going forward for the next few days, but also between shows. So turn on your notifications for those YouTube lives. Before we move on though, a few more messages. Marianne Contrarian, that's a good name, says, thanks for being the voice of reason, John and Jayar, love you guys. Thank you.
Awesome.
Transgirl939 says, sending love from the UK, first trans senator, woo. Exactly, I believe that's Sarah McBride, just awesome. There were some big losses, but there were also some good wins, and we're gonna do those a little bit later on, including Sarah McBride. Let's see. Trap Dragon says, in homage to Benjamin Dixon and the Dragon Squad, I changed my username, previously John Dababtiste. Trap Dragon, I like that. That's pretty good. Steven says, which dragon is Jayar? Well, Dread Dragon was pretty cool. Awesome Dragon, a little bit on the nose, but Jayar is awesome. That makes sense. We'll let Jayar decide.
Well, Dread kind of works because honestly, if I go with awesome and then I do say something that's not awesome, it's just gonna throw off my whole brand. And I'm only human. I'm bound to do something not awesome.
That's true. That's true. We've all been waiting. Let's see. Susan Chenoweth says, went to sleep in a state of nausea. Thank you for your vid this AM. I'm grateful for your empathy and ability to help me understand WTF is actually going on. Thank you, Susan. I did a couple of YouTube lives this morning. I forget exactly who said, somebody tweeted that they woke up with a sense of nauseous optimism, which I thought was pretty good. Brian Bowers, thank you for your super chat. Moe's Tube says, JR Action Jackson Dragon. Action Dragon's pretty good too, but again, Dread seems to work. Lazy Pound says, sending love and hope from across the sea. Don't spend it all on booze. Thank you. We'll try not to, but once Brett gets in here, you never know.
Already spent it.
Too late. Pixelated Pick says, my ballot had president, senators, and House people and a nonpartisan section. How wide do people declare victory before all ballots are counted? Well, some declare victory before all ballots are counted because they're terrified of those ballots being counted. Other people do projections and say, based on demographics and blah, 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 it's incredibly likely to go a certain way. But remember, those projections are not definitive. We talk about them and everything, but the actual count is the only thing that matters, and that is coming up. Jack Bassan says, Georgia will be plus 40K, Biden, Ossoff, and Warnock will be the senators in January from Georgia. We'll see, thank you. I don't want to count my Georgian chickens before they hatch. Pietro Paradiso says, thanks for the honest and sane commentary throughout the year. Big up to you. Thank you, I appreciate that. Let's see. It doesn't look like Twitch is being watched right now. Live Twitch open, and I am seeing the chat. But thank you to those. There were a few people who are gifting subs, and I thank you in chat. But thank you as well, live on the show. Do appreciate that. And with that, why don't we move on with the deuce? We've been talking so far this morning about the fact that everything that happened yesterday, including Donald Trump declaring victory, is basically what we've been saying is gonna happen. But you know who said it best? Basically laying out exactly the way last night, and indeed the next few days will go. That was Bernie Sanders on Jimmy Fallon's show back on October 23rd. Take a look at Bernie laying it out and understand that going forward, he's probably right about the way this is gonna go.
The election is November 3rd, and it's been said that we won't know the results until days later. When do you think we'll know the results?
All right, Jimmy, you raise an important point, and I hope the American people understand it because this is something I worry about. My view is every vote must be counted. For reasons which I don't have the time to get into tonight, you're gonna have a situation, I suspect, in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, other states, where they are going to be receiving huge amounts of mail-in ballots. And unlike states like Florida or Vermont, they're not being able, for bad reasons, to begin processing those ballots until, I don't know, election day, or maybe when the polls close. That means you're gonna have states dealing with perhaps millions of mail-in ballots. Here is my worry. What polls show and what studies have shown is that for whatever reason, Democrats are more likely to use mail-in ballots. Republicans are more likely to walk into polling booths on election day. It is likely that the first votes that will be counted will be those people who came in on election day, which will be Republican. And here is the fear, and I hope everybody hears that. It could well be, and I don't know what's gonna happen, nobody does, but it could well be that at 10 o'clock on election night, Trump is winning in Michigan, he's winning in Pennsylvania, he's winning in Wisconsin, and he gets on the television, he says, thank you Americans for re-electing me, it's all over, have a good day. But then the next day and the day following, all of those mail-in ballots start getting counted And it turns out that Biden has won those states. At which point Trump says, see, I told you the whole thing was fraudulent. I told you those mail-in ballots were crooked. And we're not going to leave office. So that is a worry that I and a lot of people have.
Exactly, and so he was saying that back in several weeks ago, back before Axios had broken the news that Trump was going to declare victory, and Trump had said that, no, don't lie, man, I'm not going to declare victory, and then he declared victory. Bernie was right, and we just need to chill and let the vote be counted. We need to unchill if the Supreme Court looks like they are actually going to decide, we're going to take 1 million votes and we're not going to count them. Then, you need to be as far from chill as possible. Literally, fire might become involved. But as of right now, Bernie laid it out, and it's basically proceeding that way.
It's 100%. He even called out the states that we would see this happening in. And the way that Trump would say it, even gave a time frame of the night. It was, I'm not sure. It's almost like he was in on the advisor meeting. It's like, oh, I heard them talking about this. They're just gonna set aside all truth and honesty and just go straight down the line and do it this way. And the reason why it wasn't so hard to predict is because when mail-in ballots were happening, they were hinting at this the entire time, from the Supreme Court rushing through this nominees for the Supreme Court to then disparaging the mail-in voting system, and then actually disrupting the United States Postal Service to actually carry out those disruptions in the mailing system. All that went down just as planned. And again, because we can see it right in front of us, the age of information, there's no more surprises. There's no more, oh my God, look, how many votes are coming in late in the mail? No, we knew that because people did it.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, the same Republicans and pundits who are gonna be like, why is it taking so long in Pennsylvania? Just a few months ago, we're saying, no, they can't count before election day, don't let them do that. And the people who are like, you're really gonna let ballots come in after election day that were postmarked before it? A few months ago, when the post office was being talked about, did they wanna give money so the post office would actually be able to do its job and get the ballots there on time? No, they didn't want that. They set up a situation so that they could whine. That's what Republicans do. And we're seeing it right now. And yes, it's gonna take a little bit to count these, partially because a lot of people actually voted, which is good. It probably has more to do with Trump than with Biden, and the Dems have messed up the vote in a million different ways. But so far, what it's looking like, the US Elections Project estimates nearly 67% turnout. That would be the highest since the year 1900. More than 160 million people may have voted this year. Now, close to half of them will have voted for Donald Trump. So this is horrifying in its own way, but we are at least somewhat engaged. If America is gonna be torn down and some sort of Handmaid's Tale, sort of white supremacist Christian theocratic autocracy is set up, at least let's fight it on the way out. Let's not apathetically go into that dark spot.
Yeah, and just
it looks like we're at least fighting.
Yeah, when you see it coming, there's no more surprises. Yeah. At this point, if you sit back and be complacent about this, you were okay with it in the first place. They didn't have to spring it on you. It's fine.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who voted and a lot of people who are just perfectly fine with a lot of this stuff. I definitely agree. Now, to that point, actually, let's turn now to a continuation of the Trump talk from earlier on. Donald Trump declared victory. We knew he was gonna do that, he did that. We knew how the media needed to cover that, but we were still afraid that some of them would be irresponsible. And so far, they have been, but it's probably the part of the media that we're least surprised to see it in. So when you see screenshots like this last night, Trump declares victory, Biden calls for patience, Fox News knows exactly what they're doing. Trump is prematurely, falsely declaring victory, and Biden is saying, let's count the vote, but they're presenting it as Trump has won, and Biden's like, no, wait, don't give it to him yet. That's not what happened at all. But Fox News knows exactly what was going to happen. They're just sort of going along with it.
Declares victory. Again, and declaring victory, you can put it that way, and then you have your nice, you have your legalese ready of saying, we didn't say he won, we said he declared victory, which is true, but it's also not true for the reality. So you have to put in the reality. Trump falsely declares victory. Trump declares victory when he didn't win. I guess Because any of this can be put there just to clarify for the people who maybe aren't following at home.
Yeah, why is that little lower third had this guy says this guy said that? What about like the actual information? You guys aren't calling it for Trump. Maybe weigh in and say neither of them has won yet. But no, they're going along with it. And that has continued. You have this, I'm not gonna play the clip in this case, but Fox News talking about how counting all the votes is not necessarily as good as it sounds. Oh, they're literally doing that. If you watch that clip and it's available at Media Matters, they are trying to pretend that lots of votes are suspect in a way that they are 100% not suspect. But I only bring this up so that you know going forward, whatever Trump does, whatever votes he wants thrown out, whatever challenges there is going to be an echo chamber on Fox saying that he is right. And notice who's in that screenshot. That's not Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham. That's Brett Baer and Martha McCallum, I believe. That's their supposed straight news anchors who are already preemptively saying, well, a lot of votes suspect. It's really gonna be up to the courts, who knows? It's not gonna be up to the people, certainly. But anyway, there have been apparently behind closed doors, some Republicans who at least say anonymously, like cowards, that they don't like what Trump did. Here's a short clip. This is CNN's Jamie Gangle talking about some of her Republican sources in the White House, how they responded to Trump's declaration of victory last night.
Bones, what was going on behind the scenes at the White House?
So as a Republican source said to me, this is a senior official who is normally an ally of the president, said that Trump had a temper tantrum last night, that he saw that the numbers could start going against him, that he wanted to declare victory while he thought that he was ahead. And this, as you've been saying, John, this was not a surprise to us. The White House had been sort of forecasting for weeks that this might happen. But here's the thing, we know how to count votes, as you've been pointing out all morning. What the president did last night was sow chaos, confusion, undermine democracy. And I will tell you, the Republicans I spoke to this morning are not happy with him. Let me read 3 quotes from 3 different officials. The first person said he is behaving as expected badly. The second person said that Trump is afraid of mail-in ballots. And the third person said that what he said last night was, quote, indefensible.
Okay, so and these are very strongly held beliefs that those unnameable Republicans hold, and they will only give them under condition of anonymity. But I guess they believe it secretly behind closed doors.
I'm so over the I'm pushing back on the president as a Republican. I'm gonna push back on the president anonymously, quietly, not really whispering to CNN so that he can quickly say CNN fake news like I've been telling you for the past 4 years. We know the game. So if you're a Republican now, conservative, wherever, and you decide to come out now and act like you have something, you have opposition to what he's now pulling, I don't wanna hear it. I don't wanna hear it. I really don't care. The degree to which I don't care about your newfound reality and how much you just woke up to what the president is doing, and I can't back that. If that first Republican that said he's reacting the way that we would assume badly, if you assume he's gonna react badly, why are you still supporting him? You assumed it before he did it. So did a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of people who were opposing him. So people who opposed him said he's gonna do this, it's a bad thing. I oppose him openly. If you knew he was gonna do it, why are you still backing him up? Does that make you one of the bad guys?
But yeah, well, it's yet more evidence that they are. But why are they acting surprised? Like these Republicans who won't name themselves, they're in the White House. It's indefensible that he said that. He had a temper tantrum. Okay, yes, he did have a temper tantrum. He's an emotional, wild, reckless idiot. But we knew it was gonna happen. It was a scheduled temper tantrum. They had it in his official schedule. He's gonna lose it. No, we knew it was gonna happen. How did you not know it was gonna happen? How did the straight news anchors on Fox not know that it was gonna happen? Ben Shapiro even tweeted something to the effect of, Trump's wrong, we should count all the votes, which is good, I guess. if Trump gets 1 billion votes canceled by the Supreme Court and illegally stays in the White House, Ben Shapiro will totally go along with it. So let's not give him too much credit. But how is he seems kind of surprised. I don't understand how anyone doesn't get that this was going to happen and they're still acting like taken aback by it. I guess Fox News, they have an agenda, obviously, so you can't necessarily take their reactions as being honest, but this was the most, this is the most obvious plot twist ever, and so many people still seem very taken aback by it.
No, they're not. This is the party of people who like to point out about how if you jail everyone that's done any kind of petty crime, that it's a deterrent and no one else will do it. These ones who said it was a deterrent to separate kids from their parents at the border, migrants coming up looking for some kind of refuge from things they were seeing in their own country. So if you already believe all that, you believe that consequences for things or a detriment, or a deterrent for people's actions is some kind of consequence, why don't you think it applies to him? You've let him off the hook in every moment, every horrible thing he's done, you've endorsed. Why would you think he would suddenly have any kind of thought process that this is the wrong thing to do? You haven't taught him that lesson yet. There's been no deterrent so far. Why would he start now? No, because you know how this works. You know you've endorsed him. You know you've pushed everything he's done on the side. You've done it as what you agree with. Now you suddenly don't agree anymore. Get out of here. It's madness.
Yeah, and you look at there's so much more that we could show. Honestly, I had to do sort of live videos this morning on, as the electoral returns were coming in. So honestly, I don't know, how is Fox and Friends covering this? What are they saying about those challenges? I don't know, but I do know that from what we've seen, Fox News is lining up behind Donald Trump. You had Chris Wallace briefly said this is incendiary, what he did and all that. That's good. Chris Wallace is apparently the only good one over there. But the rest seem to be lining up. We're gonna have to see. I have a feeling that the nighttime leads on Fox are gonna be fairly clear in supporting Trump and getting rid of as many votes as possible, but we will have to see. Now that said, we are gonna turn to some of the good news from last night, but first I do wanna read a few more comments. Vegan Lay says, you realize a Biden win means Trump can run in 2024. It totally does mean that. Maybe I'm being naive. A 4-year older Donald Trump with 4 more years of degradation of his cottage cheese lungs. I don't know how much I fear that. Jayar, are you worried about him running in 4 years?
Not at all. Who cares? Who cares? 4 more years after he's gonna run, after he's been ridiculed, dismantled, beat down, potentially finally have some consequences for his actions. Deutsche Bank is about to pull out and stick their hand out and say, give me my money. All these things will come down on him. And he's not gonna have the energy, definitely not gonna have the political positive approval ratings to even run again. I really don't.
It's not impossible. It's one of the later things that I'm worried about. Joyce Scott said, I see a third party the next election. Shall we start now? Joyce, I love you, but no, I don't think so. The question would be, and by the way, there will be additional third parties. There's ones that are being worked on, and in some cases by people that I love and respect and support and all of that. The question would be, why would they work better or have a better chance than, for instance, the Green Party that has existed and field candidates and has a fundraising infrastructure and all of that that's existed for literally decades and has run good people at various points. It's just unless. These are not issues of candidates running for the third party. These are structural issues that make it virtually impossible. And my fear would be that whatever amount of thinking and passion and money and attention went into that would be much better served reforming the Democratic Party. We have some hope for the future, and we're gonna turn to it in just a moment because of, for instance, members of the squad, people like AOC and Ilhan and Ayanna and Cori Bush and all of that. Those are all names that because they ran as Democrats and won. And if they had run as whatever, name a different party that they could have run as, there's a very real chance that you would never have heard of them, and there's a much better chance that they would have no power. So these are good people, whether on the electoral side or those organizing for it. But the system is set up to make it virtually impossible, and the stakes are too high. We have a path, it's a very difficult one. I'm not gonna deceive you about that, but we are having wins when we run and reform from within and engage in very difficult primary races, but win them. That can work. The other strategy feels better, but it does not have a chance of working. And I know that that'll make me unpopular. Nobody likes saying things that will make them more unpopular than me, but I have to be honest with you, and that's how I feel. But that said, I love you and thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, let's work on some structural things with our election system, like the Electoral College and election voters' holiday, making election day a holiday. Just two very small, very
ranked choice voting. Yeah. There's nobody who supports more changing the system to make it so that third parties can run, but that's what the attention needs to go to. If you want a third party to win, you have to change the system, not make an incrementally better third party. The barriers are just too high. Okay, more messages. Chanel says voter suppression has played a big part in the lack of Democratic votes in southern states. Hopefully gerrymandering gets fixed. Too much blatant corruption in America. Keep up the real news. Chanel, I agree with you. But again, I have to be Buzz Killington. They now have a supermajority in the Supreme Court, and that is a majority of the Supreme Court that is going to be incredibly hostile to voting rights. Yeah. So I could lie to you for the next 4 years, and I could pat you all on the head and say that it's awesome. But all those times I warned you about the damage that the Supreme Court is going to do if Donald Trump gets to pick justices, we're now going to experience some of that together. Agent Smith also says Trump will run for 2024 even if he wins now. Yeah, I guess. Look, he's gonna keep doing rallies and he's gonna have his TV show or whatever. Assuming he doesn't win, which there's still a chance he could win. He's gonna like that. It's gonna be so much easier. He just wants applause. That's all he wants. He's Homelander. Yeah. Okay. Lock the Muggy says Dread Action Dragon. DAD. Dad. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, let's see. Chris Hackett says, I like to order the Dragon Squad straight jacket if available, bloody hell. Someday, we'll make one. Druggist the Dragon says, forgive me if I missed this. Haven't had enough of my rebel roast yet, but at what point is a mail-in ballot considered cast? When it was postmarked or when it arrives to be counted? I mean, that's sort of philosophical. It depends on the state. That distinction matters on the state level because some states, if it gets there the day after the election, it doesn't matter if you postmarked it a year ago, they're not going to count it. But a number of places do.
And that's where a lot of these legal battles happened as far as when something's postmarked versus how many days after the election they'll accept the arrival, which then, of course, leads to the Postal Service delivering the damn mail.
Yeah,
it's all connected.
100%. Susan Collins. Ugh. Okay, let's see. Deborah Thornton says, woke up to your good news video. Thanks for the reminder that we expected this and be patient. Getting a Dragon Squad shirt to catch my lib tears just in case. Funny, Deborah, I like that. Hillary's popular vote margin and he's been steadily gaining throughout the morning, looking really good. Yeah, I mean, it looks like in the end, Biden will get more votes than anyone who's ever run for president before. That isn't as impressive as it seems, but it is still impressive. It's good, people are engaged and all of that. Let's see. Nyazia says, hey, Dragon Daddy. Hey, awesome dragon. It's my 63rd birthday today. I want Trump to lose for my birthday. It might have to be a belated birthday present. It might take a few more days, but we're working on it. Working on it. Eric says, sadly, the whole ballot dump message is working with Trump supporters, even though we all know that it's BS. Yeah, and we can't be surprised by that. They believe whatever it feels good to believe. That's all it is. They will believe whatever makes them feel 1 degree warmer and cozier. Now that said, by the way, on the Twitch chat, I see a message saying, I love how a 64-year-old calls him Dragon Daddy. You love it. I'm mixed feelings. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, about anybody. And Zane, you know who you are. Anyway, thank you so much for the support. Okay, with that, let's go into a little bit of good news. Things are still really anxious in the election, but they could have been much worse if certain awesome candidates had lost. But I am here to tell you that none of them did. With the world anxiously awaiting the results of a presidential election that some have called a matter of life and death, the 4 progressive congresswomen who burst onto the national political scene in 2018 and quickly became known collectively as the Squad expanded their informal team in the US House on Tuesday by at least 4. So not only do you now have Ayanna Pressley, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, you now also have Jamal Bowman, Mondaire Jones, as well as Cori Bush and Marie Newman. 3 of those 4 have been on TDR We got very close with Cori Bush yesterday, but we had audio problems. But hopefully we'll be talking to them more in the future. But there now we have a doubling of the squad. We have additional Justice Democrats coming in, great progressives that are hopefully going to be out there putting pressure on the points where pressure needs to be placed. So that is very good news. Losing any one of those would have been devastating. Congratulations to the Republicans who set fire to millions of dollars trying in vain to take down Ilhan Omar and AOC and Rashida and all that. But Jayar, at least that didn't happen.
No, it's good. And I've been saying this since the original four were elected, was we need the reelection before I feel good enough about this confirmation of people accepting the reality. We know that the policies are on our side when it comes to these types of candidates and these types of Congress people. We know that. We need that confirmation from the rest of the country that they understand it, or enough of the rest of the country understands it, and they continue to be put in office. But on top of just reaffirming the original ones, then we get some additions. This is even better, and actually pretty much expected. That's the whole point. When you know the truth, when you know that the actual agenda items are on your side, things that Americans need, you really shouldn't have to worry about it because it'll speak to people. That's the whole thing. You say something as a politician, or you propose something, and you see the way people respond to it, or look up and go, man, that actually really helped me. That's how it's supposed to work. It really shouldn't be that hard to connect with people in a representative government.
Yeah. They
tell you something, you talk about how it may work, and then you do it because you represent them. Crazy how that works, And then after you represent them and their life gets better, they come back and vote for you again. Wow.
Yeah. Every Republican around the country thought, well, obviously Ilhan Omar is going to be voted out. Clearly, I hate her. I hate her more than I've ever hated anything. Why wouldn't she give it up? No, she very comfortably was reelected. AOC very comfortably. They're doing fine. You know what? They're very popular because they deliver. And now there's more. Very excited to see what Cori Bush does. Cori Bush tweeted this out, which I just loved. The first. And she is the first Black woman to represent Missouri. How the hell is that possible? It's Missouri. And of course, the answer to those questions is very obvious. But if it had to be someone, this is a good person for it to be. And think about her path from starting off as an activist, coming out of Ferguson, and then trying once and coming very close, and now getting elected. That is the path. It's not always super smooth. Sometimes there's little bumps along the way. But now she's going to be in Congress. And you know what? We've now got an increasing bench of awesome progressives in Congress that are going to be running for Senate eventually, or for governor, or for president. This is how we win. We obviously focus for very understandable reasons on things like Biden versus Trump. That is a battle, we need to engage in it. But there are many battles being fought simultaneously, sometimes by names that you don't know, that I don't even know. But they're working their way up through state government, getting in a position to run for Congress. That is what we need. We need a web of candidates all across the country moving in the right direction. Cori Bush is a great example of that.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have messages from Ayanna Pressley tweeting, together we have fought for our shared humanity. We have organized, we have mobilized, we have legislated our values. I am so proud to be your congresswoman and your partner in the work. I believe in the power of us, and we're just getting started. AOC, thanked her district for reelecting her. Obviously, if she had lost, I probably would not still be doing this job. But anyway, you have Ilhan Omar tweeting out, our sisterhood is resilient. I mean, how much do you love that? Oh God, think about how much hope they've given us over the last few years, and now we've got more years, and we've got backup for them too. We've got Jamal Bowman saying, wow, I'm so humbled to be the next representative of New York 16. Thank you so much. Ready to get to work to disrupt the status quo and deliver for our families. Hold me accountable, push me and my colleagues. I'm going to need you in Congress with me. There's so much work to do. So awesome.
This is how I think, to address that one person about the third party or developing a third party. It's a slow burning process. I'm sorry, it sucks. This is the way to change over the people that are in office. We've picked up several more, So the people in office are a way to take over and modify and enhance this party rather than just jumping around and trying to do another one that has to gain traction, which may take longer. Again, think about it. Since the beginning of this nation's birth, there has been politicians put in place to disenfranchise or not represent certain folks this whole time. And the slow burn to change that, to actually change that, it can't happen in one cycle after it's been our entire history to do the exact opposite. The culmination of power that has been built up to not represent Americans. It sucks, and I'm frustrated by it too. It's not going to just change overnight off of 2 elections. It's not. So keep building, and keep staying engaged, because the people who want it to stay the way it's been are definitely staying engaged because they're invested in it.
Yeah. I apologize, Jayar. I'm getting updates about breaking news. So informally, let's talk about this as we process it in real time, as we're going to be doing over the next few days. Apparently, breaking news from The Guardian: the Trump campaign has filed a lawsuit to halt the counting of votes in Michigan. I wonder why, because it's going against him, as we knew that it would. They filed a lawsuit to halt the counting. There's a message from Bill Stepien, campaign manager for Donald Trump, saying President Trump's campaign has not been provided with meaningful access to numerous counting locations to observe the opening of ballots and the counting process as guaranteed by Michigan law. We have filed suit today in the Michigan Court of Claims to halt counting until meaningful access has been granted. We also demand to review those ballots which were opened and counted while we did not have meaningful access. President Trump is committed to ensuring that all legal votes are counted in Michigan and everywhere else. And so they have done this, of course, because Trump is now losing Michigan, and it is likely that he will lose Michigan if all the votes are counted. They have no interest in that happening, and we will now have to see. You know what? The dice have been cast. Do we have a democracy? Or can they use their baked-in Supreme Court supermajority to just decide the results for whatever state they need to win an election? Michigan is going to be one ground zero for that. We're also probably going to have Pennsylvania soon. But Jayar, things have gotten exciting in the exact way that we predicted they would.
Absolutely, I'm gonna say it's sticking with the same thing we're talking about. It's exactly what was planned. It's the whole idea. This is what they're supposed to do. So these are the steps on the ladder to take you to that final moment of, yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and say it's us. They have to have something they refer to once they get to that end point, to be like, well, there was that one legal battle. We filed a lawsuit in Michigan for them to stop counting votes because they were totally trying to screw us over. You're gonna find 15 different excuses as to why they're being screwed over in the next half a week, and hopefully they're gonna stretch this for their point of view. Hopefully. They're gonna stretch this for months.
Yeah, I'm seeing like right now, Biden's lead in Michigan has grown to 34,000 votes. That's about 3 times larger than Trump's victory there. I think it's actually a little bit more than that now. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Only the final count matters. But it is looking like this is not going to be as close as it was back in 2016 when Trump actually won in the state. And so they can't have it because they absolutely have to win there. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find as much information as we're going, but
again, like I was saying, the new campaign slogan is "Stop the votes, stop counting votes." 2020, Mike Pence, Donald Trump, stop the vote, stop democracy. 2020. Throw that on your bumper sticker, throw it on your flag next to "Make America Great Again." Stop the vote.
Yeah, and they all agree. They all agree. You know, even so, Ben Shapiro had his little tweet that like, I think democracy is okay or whatever, effectively is what he said. Okay, now let's get to the specifics. Do they get to stop the count in Michigan? We'll see if Ben Shapiro has anything to say about that. When they try to not count 1 million votes in Pennsylvania, is that okay? Well, we'll see in the specifics if he's actually gonna stick to his kind of guns. I have a feeling not. And certainly Fox News is gonna be totally fine with all this.
Ask every elected Republican that. Every time they stick their head out of a hole, ask them, do you agree with the Trump administration, Trump campaign's push to not count votes? Do you believe in not counting all the votes of the American people? Do you what do you have against the American people? Just ask them all the questions, because these aren't gotcha or unfair questions. This is exactly who you're supporting. This is what he's doing. Do you support him? We're not moving on until you answer.
Yeah, you know though, I'm gonna give 1% credit, kind of, to acknowledging reality to Scott Walker. Remember, didn't I don't want to throw Cenk under the bus. Didn't Cenk think Scott Walker had a good chance? Was it Scott Walker that he thought had a good chance
in the primary
2016?
Less, I don't think so.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably remembering that wrong. Oh, it might have been Rand Paul. Anyway, it don't matter. So they're gonna do the recount in Wisconsin. Right now, Biden is up by like 20,600 votes or so. So Scott Walker tweeted, after recount in 2011 race for Wisconsin Supreme Court, there was a swing of 300 votes. After recount in 2016 presidential race in Wisconsin, Donald Trump gained 131 votes. As I said, 20,000 is a high hurdle. So he is acknowledging that okay, you can do the recount. And again, if it's within the margin, which it looks like it's probably going to be, they get to do that. They just do. It's probably a waste of money that they won't pay, but they get to do that. It's probably not gonna flip 20,000 votes if you have a legitimate recount. Now, if you get your lawyers in there and you find some way to take votes out this way over here and then that way over there, who knows? We'll have to see. We'll have to see. The future of America, whether we have sort of the shambles of a democracy or we don't even have that, that is what is going to be determined in the next few weeks.
That's what's on the ballot at this point, straight up. And again, 7th time today. This is what they were planning to do. This is the playbook. Yeah. We've seen it. We already know we know the next play is going to be a toss sweep left, and the play after that is a deep slant. We've seen the playbook. We know where you're going.
Wow. I'm just seeing this for the first time really fast. Democrats apparently flipped Michigan's Supreme Court by gaining a seat there and defending another. That's pretty awesome. If you're an international viewer, you're probably saying, "Wait, what are you talking about? Like they ran for office for the Supreme Court?" Yeah, we do that. I guess that's a thing that we do in some places. But anyway, they also gained a seat on the Ohio Supreme Court. They needed 2 to flip it. Now it's going to be 4-3 GOP advantage. Back in 2017, it was 7-0. Jesus. Anyway, thank you to the production team for giving me that update on the count. We'll see, if anything happens. I want to very quickly go through one more story though. I want to close on a little bit of fun, forward-looking a little bit of fun. Okay. Do we have it? I don't know if we do. Do we? Nice. As the count was being done last night on Fox News, a Fox poll started to trickle in. We had results on a number of different issue areas and what people wanted to be done in these areas. And so I think the most awesome thing that happened yesterday during the election was the 5 doing their commentary with the sidebar of the results of these polls, showing things like, should US gun laws be more strict, less strict, kept as is? More strict, 55%, less strict, 12%. 1 out of 3 said kept as is, but the majority there wants it to be more strict. That's kind of fun. What about Roe v. Wade? What should the Supreme Court do about it? Should they leave it as is? 71% said yes. Overturn it, 29. Jesse Waters. That's him pointing an accusatory finger at every woman in America. What should happen to illegal immigrants? I don't like that that's the way they worded that, but that's the way they worded it. Should there be a pathway to citizenship? 72% said yes. Deportation, 28. The topic of changing our healthcare system to a government-run one, strongly favor 39%, somewhat favor 33%, overwhelmingly socialized medicine, very popular in this Fox News poll. I'm gonna stop there for a minute to let Jayar jump in. We've got other results, but that is a pretty dominating win for full-on government-run healthcare. That's not, do you like Medicare for all? That's, do you want the government to run your healthcare? And they're like, yeah, no, that would actually be very nice. Thank you, sign me up for that.
These socialists that watch Fox News need to go. Can't believe it. What are they doing? They're trying to take over the country. They must be following Bernie Sanders. It's, again, we've talked about it constantly. This is the other thing. When the policy is on your side, when you represent the American people and their values and what they need to live, literally, you just might get a little bit of support. It's so weird that you're constantly you're fighting an uphill battle as a politician. The decision, you make this open decision to not represent folks, and then you have to fight to get them to vote for you. Wow, that's so much harder. Just do it. They're telling you what they want. They're telling you on Fox News what they want. But instead, these guys, I'm not sure what was exactly being said when these polls were up. And you see Jesse Waters pointing like this. You're not exactly sure what he's saying, but at some point you may think he'd glance over and go, wow, that whole graphic next to me, it ain't working out for me right now. Or someone should clue them in onto whatever it is that the reality of the situation versus what they're pitching. Because it's, I don't know, man. I mean, we're living in an upside down world.
We are, but remember, the thing is that Fox viewers and their avatar, Donald Trump, hate Fox polls. That's not new, so this will just be added to the pile. But how serious is a problem is racism in US society? Very, 49%, somewhat, 29%. So obviously a big majority lead for racism being a big issue. They don't agree there, at least not with the way we would define it on Fox News. How about this? Like the biggest issue for Fox News all year, requiring masks to be worn when people go outside of their homes. Strongly favor 60%, somewhat favor 18%. That is as big a lead as anything will ever have. They want masks to be worn. Every single Fox News anchor, not every, like Juan Williams is there, like he's good or whatever. The vast majority think that that's the worst tyranny that humanity has ever seen. People watching it or like responding to the poll are like, no, yeah, it's a pandemic, man. You should wear masks, obviously. Even, by the way, I'll throw one more out. How concerned are you about the effects of climate change? Very 46, somewhat 26. Majority obviously worried about climate change. So, those are the numbers. Like, you can't argue against them in theory. They'll find a way, but it seems pretty clear.
This is why the Trump campaign has no platform for the next 4 years. This is why the healthcare plan is blank pages. This is why the rallies go with chants of lock her up, fake news. Can you believe what the size of their crowds are? I will be the one that I'm not sure whatever else there is. Oh yeah, and then you start making fun of people. All those that's the Trump platform, because issues, as we just went through several here, are not on their side. You can't talk about issues because you're losing on those. Instead, you have to talk about make-believe things. You have to say what America's gonna look like if you lose, when we don't see that. What's actually happening when you're in office. Oh, you're gonna have 5 cities on fire. Where's your policy? How are you gonna stop that? What's the reason for it? None of those are there because they lose on those issues. They know they lose on all these issues.
They do. But I wanna throw a little M. Night Shyamalan twist at you. This might seem like it's a segment of owning Fox News, which I guess it sort of is, but they're not the only one that these numbers sort of make look ridiculous. You know who else it makes look ridiculous? The Democrats and Joe Biden, because those numbers are dominating wins. Biden is not dominatingly winning. Why is that? Because he either doesn't hold those positions or doesn't communicate well around them or doesn't have solutions for those issues. The platform, in theory, that the Democrats can be running on in terms of the values they can express, the problems, the crises they can focus on, the policies they can put forward to solve those. It's all here, and it's a winning platform, and there are indeed candidates who could run on that. We just keep choosing candidates who aren't those candidates. So Joe Biden, if he actually was in line with these results, we'd have his landslide. We'd all have the election day that we wanted to have, but we didn't. And it's not just Biden, it's also our Senate candidates in a number of places. Amy McGrath spent like $100 million and really should have spent it on a private island because it was wasted on running against Mitch McConnell because it wasn't even close. And so this is sort of owning the Democratic Party too. It's all here. You don't need to do the focus group. We already know what people want. Are you ever going to give it to them? That's my question for you.
That'd be too easy, John. That makes too much sense.
I think America could use easy after the experience we've been through.
In every other business, they cater to customers, except for the business of politics. If your local grocery store finds that people are, if Best Buy on Black Friday knows everybody's gonna buy every cheap TV in there for $25, they're gonna have cheap TVs available for you. Why can't politicians see that people are banging on the door for all these issues that we just went over, and all you gotta do is open the doors and give it to them, and they'll come back the next time. They'll come back the next time.
Well, and some have. As we were talking about with Cori Bush and the squad, some have. Those are winners, those are the future. Unfortunately, those who are not the future, those who are not winners, are virtually all of the leadership of the Democratic Party right now. Great picks in those Senate races, Chuck Schumer and the DSCC. Anyway, okay, with that, unfortunately, we are way over, and I am gonna be doing a little bit of video for AJ Plus with Francesca Fiorentini a little bit later on today. So we do have to go, but Jayar, thank you so much. Truly a big news Wednesday, a breaking news Wednesday. Right. Thank you for joining us.
I knew that was coming. That's why I came on today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If you hadn't shown up, it would have been rough. So thank you. Have a good one, Dread Dragon.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna stick. Let's do that. Let's go.
Let's do that. Okay. See you later.
See you.
Okay, and for all of you at home, let's read a few more comments for you. Tony Yannick says the reason why the Senate is trending a net gain Republican is probably because Lincoln Project backing the pushover Biden and backing Republicans down the ballot. Yeah, look, I think they had an overall negative impact and it was a bunch of wasted money. I agree there. Let's see. Over on Twitch, Tyrana Lightfoot says, these aren't progressive ideas. If 70% of people support them, they're norms. Right there with you. Totally agree. Okay, Tony Yannick, thank you for your other super chat as well. Brian says, are temper tantrums part of his executive time? No, unfortunately, they're on our time. They're on election time, unfortunately. I prefer when he does it during his TV time. Eric says, Democrats need to hold convention and bridge the differences between traditional and progressives. The constant split is destroying our chances to win big in elections. Look, I guess, but honestly, I would say at this point, hopefully Biden pulls it out, but it's gonna be way more narrow than it needed to be. So they got their centrist candidate in 2016. They got it back in 2020. They got it in 2016 when they lost. Maybe like if we're gonna have some sort of balance, maybe eventually we get the progressive in a presidential election. We'll see. Okay, Black Gay Comic Geek says this is exactly why the Republicans tried so hard to push Amy Coney Barrett before the election, so Trump can take this election to the Supreme Court and steal this thing a la Bush v. Gore. That is still his best bet. I don't know if it's possible, but it seems slightly more likely than him coming back from behind in some of these states. Ryan Nowicki says, if Trump loses, do you think Fox will continue to defend Trump the same way, even if establishment abandons him so they can keep his supporters watching? Seems like it would rip the viewership in half. Yeah, I guess they can't really turn on him too much because he does have such a grip over the base that is also the base of Fox News. I think that seems true. Bonnie says, I am in Arizona and so happy it turned blue. Me too, that is one of the big changes. If Georgia could flip too, those are not nothing. Like flipping Arizona, flipping Georgia, those are significant. It would be cool to flip Texas, that's not gonna happen. AP has apparently called it on Wisconsin. John McClain and Brittany Shiner saying in the YouTube chat, that's good. I mean, I'm not surprised by that. He had, I'm seeing it just popped up on my thing. Okay, so he's up to 237. So we knew that he had already won the vote there, and there is gonna be the recount, but the call is good. I like that. Let's see the call. Okay, Tajaswi says Biden looks to be winning without the House and Senate though. How does the left push Biden to implement any policy now? Well, no, they're gonna have the House and they could still potentially have the Senate, although it seems less likely now. It's gonna be tough. They can push him on executive orders. They can push him on cabinet picks hypothetically. There are a lot of things they can push him on, not as much as if they got the Senate, and that is gonna be devastating. Katie Campbell says, thanks for helping keep my sanity. I've watched all of TYT pretty much from the beginning, but John and Jayar are my favorites. What do you know? Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, Haas says, seriously, where have all the YouTube trolls gone? Can I breathe now, John and Jayar? Good work, you guys. Oh, good. Always glad to see that there's less trolls. I've been doing a little bit of pruning during this show, but I want the chat to be as useful as possible. Timothy Crocker says, whatever happens, time to call for a new constitutional convention. There are a few things that I would want to have discussed there, but I'm not sure that it's gonna happen. Nicholas says, hi John, it's my birthday. Could you read the following? Congratulations on completing your annual 584 million mile trip around the star Sol. Thanks, love you, Dragon Daddy. Thank you. Happy birthday, Nicholas. You're crazy, but happy birthday. Okay, thank you to everybody who sent in super chats letting me know about the recount in Wisconsin. I can see Sean, Joichi, thank you for that. I do appreciate it. Made money into building, thank you for your super chat as well. Okay, so with that, everybody, thank you so much for watching. The coverage does not end. I'm gonna be on with Francesca on AJ Plus in like 40 minutes, probably live videos as well. So turn on your notifications. Follow us at twitch.tv/TYT as well for the possibility of going live there. I believe Anna and Jank are doing the Young Turks today, and it looks like there's already gonna be a lot for them to talk about. So definitely stay tuned for that. And until our next broadcast tomorrow, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.